Well, colleagues, thank you very much for that very warm welcome. I must say that I find that kind of welcome very moving. It nourishes me, it inspires me, it motivates me, because inherent, for me at least, in that welcome is a true sense of family, the spirit of collectivism and solidarity. And that's not lost on me. It's very important to us all in this room. So please let me respond by saying tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. I bring to you greetings of solidarity from Australia and beyond. 2 days ago I was in New York, and I also am able to bring you greetings of solidarity from our colleagues, from our sister unions from many other countries across the world, and also from the General Secretary and the President of our Global Union Federation, EI. I was in New York participating in the culmination events to mark the end of Phase 1 of Education International, our Global Union Federation, our campaign aptly titled Unite for Quality Education, a campaign with 3 objectives. The first, to raise public awareness, and in doing so, political heat at the local, national and international level with respect to the value of public education and what it means around the globe. The second objective relates to building public awareness, political heat at the local, national, international level in order to highlight the dangers of privatisation to the provision of high-quality public education for all. And the third objective, of course, is to ensure, through appropriate political heat, built up because of public awareness at the local, national and global level, to ensure that we achieve the Millennium Development Goals of every child being given access to quality education around the globe. Those Millennium Goals, of course, are to be achieved by the end of 2015. But in building that pressure to ensure that in the development of the goals post-2015, we do not lose sight of that objective to ensure that every child has access to public education, quality education, primary and secondary, around the world. Now, before I go any further, I'll just share with you, and some of you may have seen it because it was posted on our Global Union's website and Facebook site and all those other social media things that I don't understand, a couple of days ago. But if we can just show the video from the culmination events, because over a 2-week period across the globe, teachers like you were participating in events to mark the end of that first phase, the end of the 12-month period of this global campaign. Let's have a look at the video.
Watching us all today, here in Delhi, across India, Asia and beyond. The educators of the world, represented globally by Education International, are bringing a message to the United Nations.
We represent about 30 million teachers around the world, and the passion of all those teachers will make it possible to persuade governments to do what they're supposed to do, and it is to invest in quality education. That means in quality teachers, in quality tools and in quality environments.
There are still some 60 million kids around the world, and yes, progress has been made in the last 10 or 15 years, but there are nonetheless still 60 million kids around the world, and there's only one reason for it. There's only one reason: the lack of political will on the part of governments globally.
The education community has mobilised, and we will stay vigilant until quality public education for all becomes a reality. Thank you.
Organizations widely in Europe have supported this campaign. Organizations have made demonstrations, negotiations with governments, film, videos, whatever, you name it. The activity has been there. Everybody is interested in delivering high quality service in our sector. But we also need high quality support. And we need governments to recognize their responsibility for public education.
So where to from here? What's phase 2 of this global campaign? And what is it we need to do? We're brought here and we're driven every day by our fundamental belief in public education and what it means for each individual child, their families, their communities, nations as a whole, and the global village in which we live. We're driven by the belief and the desire to see in every community, in every neighbourhood, a public school of the highest quality. A public school of the highest quality that sets the standard for the provision of quality education. A public school of the highest quality that is resourced in order to ensure that every child can reach his and achieve his or her hopes, dreams and aspirations. To ensure that we deliver in every school, in every classroom around the world, a qualified teacher to deliver a rich, rigorous and rewarding curriculum to give that child that opportunity to succeed and reach his or her full potential. We as educators, as teachers, as support staff, we have always been ready to fulfil our responsibility when it comes to meeting the needs of the students in our schools. But what we've always sought is that governments fulfil their obligations to properly fund our schools, to give us the resources, the wherewithal to do the job that we can do. We do a great job. You do a great job every single day with the resources you have. Imagine how much better that could be. Imagine how much more we could improve on those educational outcomes of all children, regardless of background, if we had the resources that we need, that they deserve. Unfortunately, though, public education at the moment is under incredible threat. There is a global threat. It's a threat not only being realised or witnessed in New Zealand or in Australia, where we've had the return of an ultra-conservative government led by Neanderthals. It's a serious matter, let me assure you. But this is a global threat. Public education has never been under such threat, and quite frankly, I fear for the future of the globe. Because ultimately, public education, seen through the prism as we do, of public education as a public good, as the cornerstone for democracy, public education open to all, free, secular, universally accessible, to ensure that all children can come together, learn to live together side by side, is under threat. Because globally, our governments are trying to retreat and abrogate their responsibilities for not only the provision but also the attainment of quality education for all. You see, public education is a relatively recent phenomenon globally. Even in our countries, public education was first witnessed in the late 1880s. It's the same for the US, it's the same for many European countries as well. Mass education, mass public education, wasn't really seen in our industrialised countries until after World War II, at least with respect to the provision of secondary education. But some 20 or 30 years later, conservative forces around the world started to put in place a plan. a plan to destroy public education as we envisage it, and to establish a market where global capital and global corporations could profit off our children, could profit off the one sustainable resource on this planet, the one guaranteed renewable resource on this planet. You can mine as many quarries as you like, you can cut down trees, but they all come to an end at one stage. But there is one renewable, forever sustainable resource, it's children. And global capital wants to get its hands onto it. Along the way, they try to knock us over as well, because it's our unions that stand in the way of their dream and that unfettered access to our kids. And we've got news for global capital and these corporations. We ain't going away. We ain't going away, because we're going to get stronger and stronger and stronger, and we're going to take you on. To put in context what they're really after, or to illustrate what they're really after in dollar terms, just want to show you one slide. They want the $3.8 trillion currently invested by governments in education. They want it in their pockets. They currently only have access to about 0.1% of that market. They want it all. They want to profit off our kids. They want to rip off our tax dollars that belong to our kids and the future generations. That's what they're after. Their campaign varies around the world. In industrialised countries like ours, where we've had a tradition of public schooling and a system of public schooling for some 100-odd years, their modus operandi is somewhat different to what it is in developing countries where they haven't had universal public education for the same period of time as we have. In our countries, they achieved their dream of getting access to these monies and making profit out of our kids by developing supply chains. Supply chains where they can make more and more and more profit off services that they can provide. And how do they do that? How do they establish their supply chains? How do they build their business plan? Well, the first thing they do is that these global players, and some of them are bigger than countries combined, to name one such global player, Pearson. Pearson is bigger than many, many countries combined. What they do is they filter, they penetrate every level of government in the first instance and start influencing these governments using their leverage, political leverage, threats, money, everything. And once they've penetrated those levels of government, they start to develop a narrative. And the narrative is one that contributes to, in their hope, a crisis in confidence in education. Standards are dropping. There's a lot of waste. Teachers aren't doing a good job. We need to tighten up the curriculum. We need to make these kids more job ready. But standards won't get us there, and the country will continue to decline in terms of its competitiveness. But you know what? There's a solution. Pearson will offer that solution, and we'll start off by developing for you a battery of standardised tests. So you can test every kid once, twice, as often as you like, because we'll keep on providing the tests for you, and we'll make a lot of money out of the tests that you've just bought off us. And those tests will diagnose the weaknesses inherent in kids' learning. And guess what? We're a publishing house, and we'll produce the books that are necessary for the kids to learn the material that might improve their outcome in the standardised tests. But guess what? This test will also tell us how much you're failing, the profession is failing. And you know what we'll do? We'll start developing some professional development modules that you can buy off us. And once we've done that, recognising that we need to sort of delve deeper to ensure the future generations of teachers do what they're told, we'll develop an institute and create our own initial teacher education, higher education courses and colleges to produce the teachers. You've just seen bucket loads of money going from one arm to the next arm, to the next arm, to the next arm of government, created by that illusion of crisis of confidence, aided and abetted by governments that are abrogating their responsibility, outsourcing their responsibility to the future citizens, the citizens of each country. In the global south, in the developed world, their modus operandi is different. Because there's been no long-term tradition of the provision of universal education, public education, they now need to bring it down by creating a crisis of confidence. What they do is they just go straight into those governments that have very little bargaining power and take over their systems. They just get given the dollars directly and establish private schools. But that's not enough. They establish for-profit private schools. One such global player called GEMS made $500 million profit last year. Not answerable to anyone, certainly not shareholders, just venture capitalists. $500 million that belong to kids. Because when you deny resources for kids, when you delay resources for kids, they're effectively denied. Kids have only got one chance at school, and they've ripped off their chance to meet and achieve their dreams and hopes and aspirations by ripping off $500 million. One such company, a Pearson company, that is establishing for-profit schools around the developed world, has gone one step further. In Ghana, kids turn up with colour-coded bands, wristbands. And one particular colour signifies it's their last day at school because they haven't paid up. We have a problem. We have a big problem. Global capital, edu-businesses, aided and abetted by pathetic governments that have embraced the market, the unfettered market, neo-liberalism, are coming after our kids. And we can't allow it to happen. It's not a problem that any one of us individually can confront. We can't do it alone in New Zealand. We can't do it alone in Australia. We can't do it alone in any country of this world. Our only chance is to build a global response. A global response where the sum of our individual parts as member organisations of our global union federation ensures that the whole is stronger than the sum of those individual parts. We've got to build alliances. We've got to build strength. We've got to build capacity in order to take this on at the local, the national and the global level. At the local and national level, we've got to look inwards to start off with. Is our house in order? Are we strong? Are we united as a teacher union, education worker union movement in our countries? That's a message to you and a message that I'll be delivering tomorrow to the PPTA as well. Are we united? Are we strong in terms of the alliances that we're building? Are we building those alliances with other unions, with other community players, with other parts of civil society? The strength of these global businesses, these corporations, these edu-businesses, is bigger. Their influence goes deeper than what we could have ever imagined a number of years ago. We've got to build the alliances to get stronger, to defend that which is so important to us, and that is quality public education. They're coming after us. They're coming after us, but we cannot allow them to succeed. Enough is enough. The time for talk is over. For over 12 years, 13 years, I've been attending international forums. And this is a criticism of myself. Delivering analysis, wonderful speeches, analysis, critiquing neo-liberalism and how bad it is. And at all these international forums, our colleagues do exactly the same. We're in heated agreement about how bad neo-liberalism and the application of market principles is, and the attack that it represents on quality public education. Heated agreement. But what have we done about it? And more importantly, what are we going to do about it? So there's no more speeches. There's no more analysis as to what's wrong with neoliberalism. That's a given. That's a given. What are we going to do about it? And I say that we stand together and we lead and coordinate together a global response against edu-businesses in the interests of public education and what it means to every child, their families, communities, and the nation as a whole. Solidarity.